Have you ever played Stalker and come across this thought? Ah, I wish I could get behind that door and see what's there. But of course, the door is just a trick to make you feel like you are part of a world that is bigger than it actually is. And if you no-clip inside, you will just find disappointing emptiness. Well, it is possible that Stalker 2 will bring an end to this frustration, since the game is set to be open world and will most likely feature all the original areas from the previous titles. Hello Stalkers, and welcome to the Anomalous Dugout. In this video, we will take a look at some of the most interesting unaccessible areas that we may finally be able to explore in Stalker 2. First, let's talk about this famous door. It is located in the northeast part of the Red Forest, in shadow of Chernobyl, at the end of a curved road, and inside what looks like the entrance of a fortified base. This setup makes you think that there is going to be something important in here, but it's just a dead end. Yes, there is a monolith master here, from whom you can find a code for a locked door. This door is inside Laboratory X19, the Brain Scorcher lab, and just contains some loot. So it is hard to imagine that this whole area was designed only to place this small secret. In reality, this door was supposed to be the real entrance to Laboratory X10, which was the bunker under the Brain Scorcher. But for some reason, the developers decided to change the laboratory. They renamed it to X19 and moved the entrance directly under the antennas, maybe to make its location more obvious to the player. Still, they did not remove the old entrance. Moreover, in Call of Pripyat we learn from a document found in Lab X8, called Rainbow Emitter Main Technical Characteristics, that the file was prepared inside Lab X10. That's just speculation, but maybe this is hinting at the fact that Lab X10 is actually a different place than Lab X19, and that this mysterious door is still the entrance of X10, another lab linked to the Brain Scorcher that we never got to explore. If that's the case, we'll probably be able to visit it in Stalker 2. And speaking of labs, surely there will be some new underground areas in the upcoming game. From Clear Sky we know that the Dark Valley is filled with tunnels that were once used by mercenaries. The mercs used this underground system to attack Freedom outposts and disappear without a trace. In fact, many entrances can be seen in-game, but they can never be accessed. It would be very cool to finally discover what's below the surface of the Dark Valley, other than Laboratory X18 of course. Another interesting underground area would be the mines under the Red Forest, which we had a preview of in Clear Sky. Indeed, the game featured the entrance of one of the mines, as well as the tunnel which S.T.A.L.K.E.R used to get to the center of the zone. But the deepest parts of these areas were not accessible. The locations even had some concrete walls and heavy metal doors, which could hide another one of the labs. Then there is Forester's Place, that has a mine shaft with an elevator. This reminds a lot of the elevator from Call of Pripyat, which Major Dektyrev and his squad had to use to access the Pripyat underpass. This elevator had to be operated by Nitro, the local technician, and it barely worked to deliver our heroes into the darkness of the underground. Maybe something similar could happen with this mining elevator. In any case, the mines under the Red Forest would be a perfect spot for atmospheric, scary, and claustrophobic missions. Who knows what horrifying new mutants could be hiding down there. Right, maybe we've been underground for too long, so let's head back to the surface. One of the most anticipated areas from Stalker 2 is the city of Pripyat, because the prospect of the game being open world is already teasing the idea that the ghost town might be completely explorable. If this turns out to be the case, it will be a huge feature, since the city is quite big and probably the most iconic place from the real-life exclusion zone, besides the power plant. In the past, we've always had access to only chunks of the city, first in Shadow of Chernobyl, with a somewhat accurate representation of the town center, and then in Call of Pripyat, with a much more accurate depiction of the eastern districts. These areas were very cool, but many buildings remained inaccessible, and the nearby apartment blocks outside the map were so close, yet impossible to reach. Players could only dream of what lied beyond the borders of the map, into the other parts of Pripyat. Let us hope that GSC can make our dreams come true. And despite the hype around Pripyat, there are at least 2 other cities that fans should watch for. The first one is the Dead City, a cut map from Shadow of Chernobyl, but that still clearly appears in the PDA maps of both Shadow of Chernobyl and Clear Sky. In fact, the map behind Lukash in the army warehouses even refers to the Dead City, and we can clearly see that this road is supposed to lead there. Besides, we don't know much about the story of this town, and many questions still remain. What's the real name of the city? Why and when it was built? How does it exist in the S.T.A.L.K.E.R universe without ever being mentioned? Because of this lack of background, the Dead City is an area with a lot of potential from a lore and storytelling perspective. And since the town is already a very popular map in mods, and definitely belongs in the S.T.A.L.K.E.R universe, it would be a disappointment if it was not to appear in S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2. The second city we need to mention is of course Limansk, which appeared in Clear Sky. This town is very intriguing, because it is dominated by a giant antenna that was set up near the Radio Wave Institute. This somewhat secret scientific compound was the main source of activity in the city, that was basically built around it to house the workers and the scientists. Yet, it is not even accessible in-game. Moreover, large parts of the city were kept locked from the player, so that he could focus on pushing through towards the end of the game. All of this, combined with the mysterious history of Limansk, make of the city a very underused area, both in terms of gameplay space and lore. Indeed, much like the Dead City, Limansk and the Radio Wave Institute are very interesting for the lore, because it is the only location that we know of where experiments were carried out before the first Chernobyl disaster in 1986. As you may remember, the X-Labs were created after that, apparently starting in 1989, and we don't know if the experiments conducted in Limansk have anything to do with the later X-Labs, or if they are completely unrelated. Of course, the huge antenna and the rumors concerning Soviet mind control experiments could be predecessors to the Brain Scorcher and Psy emissions, but nothing is certain. This is why I think that Limansk is, among the places we already know, the one with the biggest potential for S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2. GSC, if you are listening, please make use of it. So, we've talked about labs, underground areas, and abandoned cities. What else makes S.T.A.L.K.E.R maps famous? Oh yes, industrial complexes. The first big factory you get to see in the games is Rostock, which is a very important location in the zone, as it is home to the 100 Rats Bar, the arena, and duty space. But once again, the full scale of the complex was not within reach of the player. Large parts of the area are closed and unused, while only a few hangars are open for the player to visit. I always imagined that the huge buildings behind Duty's territory contain sleeping dorms, armories, training facilities, and maybe even shooting ranges and the mutant zoo from Clear Sky. There is a lot that could be added to the main bases of the factions to make them more living, and not only Duty but also Freedom and other factions as well. Also, it would be awesome if S.T.A.L.K.E.R started to turn Rostock into some sort of city, like it was planned at some point in the development of the old S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 from 2010. We can imagine that the loners were starting to set up camps in the nearby wild territory to try to expand the safe area around the bar, and the growing city maybe contained many rooms, workshops, trading posts, and other special services only found here in the whole zone. Then there is Yentar, another area which has a large factory, and once again, the majority of it is inaccessible. Of course, you can use the western part of the map to get out of bounds and visit the northern part of the complex, but this is not intended to happen, and in the games we are only supposed to see the main courtyard and the building above Laboratory X16. The rest of the factory remains a mystery. Actually, we don't even know what this whole complex was used for. Was it manufacturing anything at all? Or was it just a cover-up for Lab X16 from the very beginning? I think it would be awesome to be able to enter the large buildings that overlook Yentar and discover their real purpose through hints such as abandoned machinery and old documents. Oh, and as a bonus, we really need to know where this pipe is leading to. The flat dead end is way too disappointing. I would love it if the tube continued and exited on the other side of the hill, in a brand new area that we've never seen before. Finally, it's time to talk about our final location, probably the most iconic one of them all, the Chernobyl power plant itself. If I'm not mistaken, this was the first map that GSC worked on after they decided that their game would take place in the exclusion zone, and they put a lot of effort into making the map detailed and as accurate as possible compared to the real-life location. As a result, the area is huge, so huge in fact that they had to cut it in half into southern and northern part, and roaming this location makes the player feel how small they are before the scale of the disaster. However, the CNPP maps were in the end quite underused, because the player was not really able to explore them as freely as he maybe wished to. The southern part only appears in Shadow of Chernobyl, where a huge battle between the monolith and the military take place, as well as a cataclysmic blowout which forces the player to hurry up to the sarcophagus. Then the northern part appeared first in Shadow of Chernobyl, where it could be fairly explored if you disregard the fact that there was heavily lethal radiations on the ground floor. And it appeared again in Clear Sky, where this time the player had very limited time to chase Trelloc and deal with spawning monolithians. Therefore, I believe that the power plant needs to return in S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 as a detailed and very accessible location. I do not doubt that the location will be in the game, because let's be honest, how could it not be included? But I hope that players will be given time to explore the area in detail and even access many of the buildings. It would be so great to finally walk to the front door and simply enter the administrative buildings, then visit the huge turbine hallway, and maybe the other reactors, you know, those who did not explode. Additionally, Reactor 4 and its sarcophagus could also be expanded. I would love to go to the control room. Anyway, everything that I said might turn out to be completely wrong, and maybe we'll never get those locations. I guess we just have to wait and see. And you, what's a previously inaccessible location that you would like to explore in S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2? Let me know in the comments below. As for now, I thank you for watching, stalkers, and goodbye.